live.
And we are back.
We are back.
Good to see you, Frank.
Yeah, it's good to be. It's what, 2-week hiatus?
Yep, 2-week hiatus. Had a little bit of the holidays in between. You got New Year's right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner, 2022.
A lot to be grateful for.
Yep. And that's it. Like, it's like learning to be grateful for the future experience you're about to have. That's the ultimate gratitude.
Expect it.
Yeah. But I'm saying, it's like get into the state of gratitude for what's to come. And, I could easily be grateful. I'm grateful for the things I've had, but they're gone. That's history. But I want to be grateful for what the present moment.
What's to come.
Yeah, because that generates excitement. Because the other one generates, like, nostalgia. Remember that day?
And we romanticize about the nostalgia. And we make it better. We add these little stories to it.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but and it took me a little while to focus on learning to or understanding to come have gratitude for the future. Like, how can you have gratitude for something that hasn't happened? I'm like, well, it's the unknown I have gratitude for. But I also know that if I head into the unknown in the state I want to experience it, I know it's going to turn out that way.
One thing I want to bring up real quick is this was the first year for myself where after that little holiday in between the New Year time frame, when you kind of get like...
You're being attacked.
I'm being attacked. Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to move this plant real quick.
Yeah, it's one of those Venus flytrap
There
things.
we go. But this is the first time I didn't kind of get those after holiday blues right before the New Year. You know, that kind of the feeling of like, oh man, the holidays are over. And I very distinctly remember that always growing up, experiencing that, like back to real life. And for the first time in my life, I felt this beautiful energy about heading into the new year.
And do you know why? Like
I'm rewriting over the old conditioning. I know exactly why.
But I was talking to somebody about this, and they said the same things. Like, why is it so exciting right up till Christmas, right before Christmas? But when it happens, it just something drops off, and I'm like, because
it's over.
Yeah, it's over, but actually it's just beginning. So the whole story of Christmas is you go into the winter solstice, was the 21st, and then you follow the 3 stars, which is where the story of the 3 wise men came. And so the 22nd, 23rd, 24th being Christmas Eve. And then the new sun comes in, which is the birth of what we call Jesus. But it's the birth of a new sun, which is coming into a new whole year. When Christmas is like a philosophical understanding, waiting for the manifestation coming, and then once it happens, it comes. But once it comes, there's the work. This is why we have New Year's resolutions. You should actually have it right on Christmas Eve or 26th of Christmas, because it's not enough to just philosophize about life. The moment in which you open the gift, that's when you use it. But people open the gift and then put it back under the tree. And this is what creates that somber. Like, are you kidding me?
Recognizing their power.
Yeah.
Understanding the capability.
It's like being a kid getting so excited and you're pulling up to Disneyland, you get out of the car and you put your ticket in, and then you become somber because you're in the park. The whole buildup. But you got to realize this is a metaphor for life. It's like the buildup is going within. It's the imagination. What's going to happen? All this stuff. It gets excited. And then once it happens, that is the joy and the gift. The prior is excitement. So when you start looking at it, now is the work. Now is to play in the field of which you just created during the Christmas holiday. So why you're excited is because that's what you're doing now. You're no longer just philosophizing or intellectualizing. You're actually doing the work. So there's first philosophy, then there's integration, and then out of integration comes wisdom.
And there's a great knowing behind it. And I feel like that is really where it's been at for me.
The knowing doesn't come until you actually apply it. When you philosophically talk about stuff, you can understand it, you can do this, but until you actually apply it and experience it, you don't know anything. Like, I don't know what water is until I jumped into it. I could talk about it. I can philosophize. I could intellectually discuss it. But until I jump in, I don't know it. Until I eat pizza, I don't know it. Until I made my first $1 million, I didn't know it. But then I did, because I did. So it's interesting in how we look at the experience. So we set forth the energy by using a philosophy or an intellectual discussion onto it. But then we move into the field of open up the gift and then playing with it. That's when it begins, not ends. So people think Christmas Day is when it ends. I'm like, that's the beginning, people. Before it was just talking about it, getting excited about it. But when you open the gift, now the gift is going to take you forth into that next place. So don't put the gift back under the tree. Use it. What's the gift? It's a brand new experience into the unknown. That's what it is. What's 2022 to come? Don't compare it to 2021. Just go into it. Because every year I experienced was great. And they were great in different ways. One wasn't worse than the other, you know. Now, that's the way I perceive it. Someone else was like, you're full of shit. It was bad. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. Whatever direction we look, we see that direction. If I look west, I see west. If I look east, I see east. This is physics. This isn't philosophy. So if you're looking east and I'm looking west and you're explaining east, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Now I have an understanding of directions and looking, so I'm not going to argue with you because you are right. But if I'm watching the sunset and you're looking east and you're like, I don't see the sunset, and I'm like, yeah, you can't because you're looking east. The sunset's in the west. It's about understanding we have the ability to direct our eyes onto something to have an experience. But then separate from the experience and who you are, because that's not who you are. You're the person moving the lens, moving the species or the body into it to have the experience. The five senses will have it. But that's not who we are. We're the thing behind it, moving it. And then part of us, the imagination, projecting out and having the experience that we hopefully prefer.
And call reality.
If you're conscious, you're going to prefer it. If you're unconscious, you may or may not prefer it. It's good luck, bad luck.
At the end of the day, the most important thing any of us can study or learn about is consciousness. Learn about your subconscious mind. Learn about consciousness.
Yeah.
If you truly are find yourself in a position of wanting more or looking for that solution or in this constant chase, you're looking for yourself.
Yeah, well, you're looking for the feeling, the state. So we think if we get the big house, we'll be happy, which happy is a state. But you must get into a state to see the house. It's like I talked about this before. If I'm in the state of Arizona and I want to see the ocean, I must leave the state and enter into a state that has an ocean. But to expect to see the ocean in the state of Arizona is where things go wrong. The state of Arizona isn't bad. There's nothing wrong. I got to look at it, there might be a preference to it. But if you're trying to see an ocean, it seems to be bad because you're not going to see an ocean in the desert. So enter into the state in which you want to be. You have control of it. And as you do these practices, such as meditation, there's a multitude of meditations out there, and me and Mike throughout time will explain different ones.
And encourage all of them.
Yeah. And, I always tell people it's kind of like you eat food every day, you breathe every day, you go to work every day or whatever, you should be, meditator. If you meditate you don't need to. I said people, you don't need to meditate. It's just, you'll be stuck in the three-dimensional world all the time. But when you meditate and go within, what it does, it teaches you to shut out the outside world to recreate.
We've used this metaphor before, but I like to kind of say meditation is like you picture your mind like a computer, and your thoughts are all the tabs open. Meditation is Xing out of every one of those tabs, shutting down the system, and rebooting, and watching how much better your phone runs or your computer runs after closing it down and rebooting. That's what meditation is.
Yeah, because if you don't meditate, what happens is say for argument's sake, because this is what kind of happens, your computer, say your computer only allowed 20 tabs up. So when you're at the 20th tab, now the only thing you could do is reiterate those tabs. So eventually you're going to get bored of that. So we play this game called a Groundhog's Day. So you have a predictable life.
Yep. So
on Tuesday, I'll look at these 5 tabs. On Wednesday, I'll look at these 3 tabs. And you go through that, and, a month later.
Very humdrum life.
Yeah, very humdrum. But if you actually X out of all the tabs every single day, you actually pull up a new website to look at and explore that. And do not use a comparison. Don't pull the past into the future. It's just reiteration. It's not that the past was wrong. It's like you're trying to eat the same piece of pizza again. You already ate it. It's gone. It's done. and trying to emulate. And then you're comparing each piece to the piece you just ate. I'm like, stop. It's useless. We know this through physics. We can't compare in the field of quantum physics. Comparing one thing to another doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
So,
in fact, that's all mind. That's what our mind was created to do, is assign meaning.
Yeah,
associate this with that, put things together, thread a story.
Yeah.
When you see the mind from above and see what its purpose is, you let go of the rigidness of this world around us. Yeah. We think we live in a very physical and three-dimensional world. And physics, science will tell us when my hand touches this tabletop, it's not touching anything. In fact, there's this little thin space between, where the atoms,
electromagnetic field.
Yeah, pushing back against each other, giving my hand the illusion that I'm pressing onto something, and that's the weight I'm feeling.
Well, it's pushing back. It's like when you take two magnets and you put the
there you go.
Pulse, it pushes away.
So that's what we're experiencing, and our mind's been telling us a lot of different things for a lot of years, and media. Songs, television, our parents, our family, our friends, teachers have been telling us a lot of different things over these years, and it has been layer after layer of conditioning. And so our minds have been led to believe certain things that simply aren't true.
Well, why they're not true, and we talked about this earlier, when you look at everything, when you actually examine the outside world, it's not only backwards, it's backwards and upside down.
I love this.
So if you look at, we live on a round planet. So if you look out into the atmosphere, so it'd be like a dome, so it'd be concave, right? So when you look at anything, so I tell people, take a spoon, a nice shiny spoon, hold it out in front of you. The image comes back to you not only backwards, but upside down. So if you're trying to reverse engineer something that's upside down and backwards, you're going to be lost. You're seeing the figure, but it's literally putting the carriage in front of the horse. The only time you could see the true image of something is when you close your eyes to the outside world. Now I am not looking at an image that's coming to me backwards and upside down. Because if I'm looking out in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is a globe, because I'm on the Earth, which is convex, and then concave comes in the other side, that's what happens. It's a backwards and upside down.
Frank and I really want to get you to see what you're experiencing is not as real or rigid as it appears.
It's a projection of our ideas collectively of 8 billion people on the planet. But I look at so you take it down to the town you're in. So everyone in your town is projecting onto the tapestry of the screen.
A collective consciousness.
Collective consciousness. So what we could do as best is go in and change our perception to it. We go out. So, okay, I like that. Okay, I want to change that. When I want to change that, I have to go within and close and then go down, get rid of all the tabs, let all the thoughts pass by, and then go into the quantum field.
Well, let's give a real life example of this too. So a collective consciousness is like an idea that a society holds. So let's take some examples real life. Homosexuality, marijuana, women's rights. These are all things that were once very rigid and held as, this is a drug, or this is the Bible says. Homosexuality today is not looked at in any different way than heterosexuality, as it should be.
Yeah.
Again, it's an impression of the mind that you are putting onto something. But you see these ideas from the 50s, early 30s, how much it's changed about views on marijuana, on
but
you see what I mean?
Yeah, let's dive.
Those are collective ideas.
Yeah, let's dive even deeper.
Okay.
And my point is this: don't change up one idea over the other, because that's what's happening right now. So people that were shamed before about whatever lifestyle they're living are shaming the people for shaming them earlier. So the victims of the fascists became the fascists to create another victim.
That is the next level.
So this is what we're talking about. I'm like, identification, separate from that. Who cares what you are? Who cares what you do? It doesn't mean you don't play the role. It doesn't mean that. But put a little barrier of separation from it. Because your tight identification is what sends you off in a horror because someone said something. Like, why is someone saying something controlling your outside world? Like, That's a tough world. So now what you're trying to do is rearrange the outside world by saying, we ought to be doing this, we ought to be doing that. I'm like, we ought not to be doing anything.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
That's it. To chase the outside world and try to right these wrongs is not the way Frank and I are saying going about this.
By all means, do it.
It's something new is going to come up. You'll see it more everywhere. You cannot fight the outside world by saying, this is wrong, getting on your soapbox and preaching your moral and justified reason. No.
Yeah, because that's
all of this is from within. Yeah. Everything outside is a reflection of what we're experiencing on the inside.
Yeah, how much more history do we need to know that this doesn't work?
Yeah.
The victim becomes the bully becomes the victim. It's like, okay, whoever has a sword, but then it's like, okay, I think we're done with this story. But if we're not, you go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I'm just bringing awareness to it.
And that's something that's good to talk about, too, because we often condition and teach, in the Western culture that the world kind of owes us something. And we grow up with this feeling like, the world owes me this, like, owes me a job, owes me a living. Says who? Yeah. The world doesn't owe us anything. And to have this like idea in our heads, it's a projection of the ego. And what Frank and I are saying is there doesn't need to be this struggle, this fight with the ego.
No, and it's about going in. So it was like the other day I heard someone giving somebody advice saying, hey, remember the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I looked and I can't help myself sometimes. I'm like, let's try to live a life where we don't need oil. Because the squeaky wheel now gets your attention, just like someone in a room with 1,000 people meditating, the person screams will get the attention. But is that the attention you want? I don't want to be a squeaky wheel. I don't need any outside attention. It's all within me. I close my eyes. I don't need oil. We don't need any more oil. So start to look at that. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. The loudest person, the biggest person will get all the food. I'm like, I don't need all the food. I just need the food I need. And there are people that go through the world that never squeaked everything, and they actually own the world. They inherit the earth. It's called the meek. And the meek isn't this measly understanding. It's understanding the dynamics and the laws of the universe. There's equations. It's my job to put the number in there, but the equation is already set. E equals MC squared. What number am I going to put where the energy field is and what it will equal at the end? That's up to me. I don't need oil for that. I just do it on my own. And then when I do it on my own, I express it outward. People are like, oh, that's interesting. And the reason I say that is because when I watch people do that, how I learned it, I'm like, how'd you do that? And they say, it's simple. See this equation? Apply whatever number you want to it. Every human being has the ability to use the equation. They just don't know it's there. To them, it's like there'd be an E and an equal sign and an M and a C and a 2 over it, but it's scattered throughout the table. And it has no
cohesiveness
until someone puts the E and the equal and then the M and the C squared. It's like, what's that? Well, if you put a number here, it will tell you how much mass acceleration squared you'll need or be experiencing. So notice the E comes first, is the energy. Einstein, swear the genius got it right.
And this is what
we are the field of energy. And when we put a field of energy out, this is what we'll get.
And that's it. That's the crux of this.
But
when you know you're putting in, you're getting out.
Yeah, he didn't put MC squared equals E. He didn't put it that way. It's the energy field, which is the quantum field. Before the particle begins, it's just a field of energy, of all possibility. And once I give my attention, I put that number there. Now I take that field of energy, that wave, and make it into a particle. And based on the amount of energy I put, that's the particle I'm going to get. Okay, I'm going to add to that particle, go back into the equation. It's set. It's there.
And quantum physics has proven this, guys. Our observation onto something gives it life, affects it. So when we put a focus
just
or an
awareness
attention,
to it,
that's what changes.
Just because I'm not looking at the moon doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I'm aware of it because I just mentioned it. All right, but to some other people that are, looking at the moon, to them it exists. So it's not like I know Alaska exists, but I live in Arizona. But I don't think about Alaska unless I'm making a point like this. So we get to choose, and if you choose the field, or you go into the field and then choose the state in which you want, that's the experience you'll have. So if I choose a state, say like California, what does California have to offer? It depends where you're in California. California's a big state. If I'm, San Diego, I'm going to experience beach, the San Diego Zoo, a multitude of things. But if I'm like more northern and central, say in like, where there's mountains and skiing, I can experience that. So all these things, but in that state, there's a multitude of experiences you can have. But if I'm choosing the state of California or whatever, it's preferential. And no matter whether I'm skiing or surfing, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to prefer it. I don't choose one over the other. But I don't try to go surfing and end up on the snow hill. It doesn't work that way. People think life is just randomly pushed that way. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But if you're always focused on the outside world, because we are what we call suggestive beings when we're not conscious. When we're in our unconscious state, we were very suggestive. And Mike mentioned earlier about the news, the media, commercials. They're suggesting and drawing into their field because if you purchase off their field, that's how they make their money. So what they're doing is, which doesn't have a lot of couth to it, is they're trying to get you to do something that you normally wouldn't do. But people that know these principles don't have to get you to do what they're going to do. You're going to want to do what they're doing. And then you're going to collaborate. So then you become equals. You should never be looking up to someone or down to anyone. You should be looking right at them. But the ad campaigns want you to look up at them. They want you to marvel over them, and they're going to take everything from them. It never works out for them in the end. It never does.
That's why they're always chasing.
They're chasing, yeah. So when you're conscious, you can use the product they're selling as an experience. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't need it. But have the experience. I don't need to surf, but I like it. I don't need to ski, but I enjoy it. I don't need a hamburger. Well, actually, I do. I need hamburgers. Yeah, I actually need those.
Good old 3D.
Yeah.
There are some great parts of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to enjoy it.
And I'm not anti-vegan, by the way.
Yeah, no. I don't think we're anti anything. I don't think we're anti or pro anything.
No.
Nice and neutral.
Yeah. Well, what
just
it is
there to witness, guys. Any impression, any assessment or judgment you're making onto a situation, you are not in the present moment.
You don't fully understand it. And this is why we judge.
This is what Frank and I are getting at is we want you to experience and every moment as it is.
Yeah.
Nothing more. No, it would have been better if it happened this way, or they should have done that, or I need to also have
this. And how do you know that? Because it's a past experience. So what we're saying
we're calling attention to all of these things. Not needed.
Yeah. And if you don't know, there's two ways you can go. If you don't know, you can judge. This is good or bad. But I'm like, if I don't know, I don't have the ability to judge. And when I don't judge, I actually am open to the field, and then I choose the state in which I want to experience the thing. And it turns out very interesting, exciting, wow. But if I judge it, and my judgment's like it has to look and turn out this way, and if it falls short of the picture, it doesn't look good. And I don't even know what falling short of the picture is, because everything that I'm pulling up or dredging up from the past, I already experienced. Why do I want to experience that again? Imagine you're a kid, and every Christmas you get the same gift. It's like, and it's not even like a new pair of socks. It's the old pair of socks. You're wearing all year. You're like, Mom, where are my socks? I'm like, just sit down and open your gifts. And you're like, oh, there they are. But that's kind of what we do. We dredge up our past into our future. It's like opening up the same gift, and you're like, what the hell's happening here?
And we've never, in the past, isn't actually how it was. It's how our mind remembered it to be. So,
now the socks
so
have holes in them.
50% true.
Yeah, because I got them brand new last year. Now they got holes in them. Yeah. Well, it is. So memory is a very lofty thing, and everyone knows this. And what I mean is, you ever play that game, was it Telephone?
Oh, I love that game.
Yeah. And if you have good, 7 people, time
it always comes out bad. Yeah,
the first 2 or 3 might get it right, but then somewhere along the line, it just loses its continuity, and it comes back to you. And
that's the story of life.
Yeah, but it's
and
brilliant.
we're all taking it for
yeah.
Oh, this is real, right?
And that's what I love about history.
Well,
that's not the real history. I'm like, yeah.
One thing I want to bring up while we're on this subject is one of my favorite quotes, and this is so beautiful, is what's his name? Shakespeare. There is no, what's that guy's name?
Willie.
Good old William. So William said, there is no such thing as good or bad. It is the mind that makes it so.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as good or bad. It is the mind that which makes it so.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that's so enlightening.
It is. And so like when I set out, I try to do everything in what I call in the field of integrity. And like, what is integrity? Integrity isn't this higher plane or nothing, but everything I do, when I'm doing it, I'm not doing it for my own good. Or what's interesting, I'm doing it to incorporate everyone around me. And when I do that, I actually benefit from it in the moment in which I'm doing it. So I don't leave myself out. It's not like I'm a martyr at all. But when I've realized, when in the field of integrity, everything I'm doing is including everyone around me if they choose to incorporate it. So it's like we know this. It's this and that at the same time, not or. So get the word or out. Look at this and that. When I'm helping someone else, I'm helping myself at the same time. So, but the thing about this, if I give my attention to somebody else, guess what I'm not giving my attention to? Me. And whenever you give your attention to you, you start to rip yourself apart. We're critical as hell. But when I'm giving my attention to somebody else and I'm, helping them out, in that instant, I'm helping myself out. This is what giving's about.
Well, why is that too? Because there is no person.
No, there isn't. It's a concept.
It's a creation that we're holding in our minds.
It's a field of energy that you're giving your attention to,
and creating a character around.
And what it is this is why. If I'm giving my attention to Mike, I have an easier way to detach from Mike. And then when I'm with myself, I have to learn to detach from myself. What I call myself is my persona. And when I learn to put a space, I don't get rid of it, but when I put a space between who I really am, the I am, and my persona, I actually enjoy my persona. It doesn't mean I get rid of it. I use it for the world.
Well, yeah.
Just like, why do we enjoy movies and books?
So I heard this described a beautiful way, but like you're saying, so the body, this persona, we're kind of like the car, okay? We're the vehicle. And then our I am, the spirit, the being, is controlling the car, right? And then the ego self, the mind body, that's going to be like the gasoline for the vehicle. And that's a good way to kind of look at how this all works. And there's tons of names for this.
Well, yeah, the ego is going to be more of the experience. It's going to understand the road.
Well, so the reason they used the gas is they were talking about free will. And this was Matthias de Stefano. Yeah. And how he talked about this was great because I love this guy. He's awesome. He has the ability. He remembers literally all of his past lives, which is crazy, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But the question was posed to him, do we have free will? And his response was no. And he said, the reason I'm saying this is the question free will, it often comes from free will would be like me, Matthias, or me, Mike, saying I have free will. Mm-hmm. But that's more the ego, the person, etc. When I am in the spirit, the I am, the control of what I'm experiencing, that is the free will. The character, the persona of Mike is not the free will. That's like the vehicle. And he was like, do we need ego? Yes, we need ego to play out and experience. Yeah. And hence, he referring it to the fuel.
Because with the whole thing, free will, and because free will, is there free will, and people always get into this, or is it determinism? And the truth is, depending on what plane you're on, it's actually both. It
is both. That's exactly what Matthias is saying. Yeah. Are you asking this from the person, or are you asking this from the spirit?
And the way I explain it, it's like this. I have the free will to choose where I want to go from where I am. And I put in the GPS, put an address, say I want to go to Sacramento, California from here. it then is determined how I get there if I follow the instructions of what's given to me. But the free will is I chose that over another state or another place. All right?
Just like we choose to experience
That's it.
good or bad,
So
heaven or
it's
hell.
it's both. In the world of the physical world and the three-dimensional world, we live in a duality world. There are other levels. When I close my eyes, there isn't. It's like free will. It's more everything is existing at that moment. But I'm experiencing. So take this. In this physical world, it's free will and determinism at the same time.
See, when I heard him say that, I took it like he's saying, okay, so when you're stuck in this third dimensional world, this reality, that's very real. You're
It can
playing
seem
out
like we're stuck. We're playing. Yeah,
but
we
you're
came
playing
here.
out your karma, is what he's saying. That's why he's saying there's no free will, because it's like when you're stuck and you're only in this world, which a lot of society is. It feels very real when you aren't aware of everything else around you in these other dimensions, experiences, etc. It feels very restrictive, real. Oh, the world's gonna, end. Very physical, matter on matter.
You're trying to change the world,
and there is you can't have free will in that experience because you are playing out your karma. You're playing it. You see what I mean?
Yeah. In order to have free
And I
will,
like how he said that. I did think that was.
Yeah. In order to have free will, like I was saying earlier, you have to separate. The reason we like movies and books and plays and stuff, because there's an automatic separation between the movie and us. And what I mean is, like, say you're watching a movie, like TV series like Breaking Bad. You enjoy it. But if actually you were in the movie, you would not enjoy it. You would not. Oh,
no,
shit.
that would not be a comfortable.
So what happens is most people get stuck in their world and they lose their free will. Because it's determined. If you live that life, if you're not separate from it, it's determined
You're
how
playing
it's
out
going to
the
turn out.
karma. Yeah. You don't see that, oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm focusing only on bad shit, and bad shit keeps happening to me. You haven't realized the light bulb hasn't gone off. You're still saying, no, this world is hurting me.
Yeah.
People outside of me are keeping me down.
Yeah,
That's the karma. That's the no free will. I can't do anything else.
Yeah,
You're trapped.
As we learn to separate and think of a character. Remember, like Bugs Bunny.
Love Bugs.
So, love Bugs.
Classic.
So Bugs would always be in these predicament and circumstances, but whenever he was in it, like he's got what the hell the guy with with the guy with the shotgun.
Oh,
Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
Elmer Fudd. Yeah.
Fudd.
So Elmer Fudd would be tracking him down, and he'd be freaking Bugs Bunny sitting there with a carrot. It's like, what's up, Doc? What he's doing?
Relaxed.
He's separating himself from the circumstance that he's actually in right now. There are scenes where he's like getting boiled in the water, and it's like, hey, what are you doing? If we learn to do that, you're going to experience the field. Experience it, but you're separating, so your emotions aren't attached to it. So why, when someone calls you an asshole, why do you get upset? Because someone trained you should get upset. And I'm like,
that's exactly it.
It's funny.
We've been conditioned it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. And actually, it's a funny thing. I'm like, because it's just words. Like if someone told me I'm an asshole in Japanese, I would talk back to him. Like, I don't know what you said.
I have no idea what that means.
No insult to Japanese. I was, just using it as an example. But it would have no meaning to it. We give meaning to words, but like, why do we give it meaning? I was talking to someone about social, like we're social beings, and then he got into, do you believe in socialism? And I'm like, well, we're socialistic. And I started talking about it. He goes, well, that means you're for socialism. I'm like, well, listen, the words, I'm like,
what?
Listen,
no, we're not
for
socialism.
Yeah, and then he looked up the word socialistic, and he goes, socialistic is a term based off the principles of socialism. Like, listen, the word socialism was hijacked, and it came from the word social. We're social beings. So somewhere along the line, someone took the word socialism when the idea came out, mainly with Karl Marx and that stuff. But the word social was invented, came out a long time ago. So what it is someone hijacked and used it. So what I'm saying, we're social beings. And when I'm in a social setting, I share my knowledge and stuff. But I don't have a government order giving it to me. So, but what's funny was, and I don't mean to, I'm not bringing this up to have this argument, but the person got hooked up on that word. I'm like, okay, let me use a different word, compassion. And he's like, okay, so I used the word compassion instead of socialistic, and he got what I was trying to say. And I'm like, he got hung up on the definition of word. And I'm like, wow.
We experience this all the time using the word God.
Yeah.
Because when Frank and I use the word God, trust me, we're not talking about some white dude in the clouds that's preaching about. That's not what we're talking about.
And if people that don't even...
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, because people don't believe in God.
Yeah. People have this pushback when they hear God, and I get it. I was that person. For 28 years of my life, I was that person. And I pushed back hard going, what? I grew up and went to Catholic school day in, day out.
Yeah, you had God tattooed on you, right?
Yeah, I know it through and through. Yeah. And so that disconnect that I felt was simply my intuition saying there's more out there. And then I found consciousness. Yeah. And then it clicked.
Yeah. And that's like I told you one time I was doing a talk, and one of the people in the audience that had been to a couple of my talks before, and afterwards she came in and she's like, I know she's used the word God. Why didn't you use the word universal source?
See, yeah, people get hung up on it.
Yeah, and I'm like, and what was funny is I used the word God maybe like 10 minutes into an hour and a half talk I was doing. And right when I used it, she froze in time. And she like when I ended it, she just jumped up onto the stage, came at me. She's like, can I ask you why you use God? And I'm like, you didn't even hear the rest of the hour and 10 minutes because of God. And I'm like, listen, universal source, saint. He's like, no, I don't like to use the word God. I'm like, okay, what I'm teaching here is don't get hung up on the word God.
It's a conditioned response to be hung up on.
So you didn't hear the rest of my talk because... And not that she needed to hear it. It wasn't like... No,
but your point is she could no longer be in that moment.
Yeah, and you can't control if someone uses the word God. Now you want to be my director here, or my publicist to tell me what I should not say, do. And I get it. People do get hung up on the word God. But I want to teach people, just like I taught myself, don't get hung up on words. I understand what people are talking about. So when I enter into a field, and one of the reasons I did, I had a whole group of people come in that day, and there was like 10 of them from a Bible study class. So I know that. So I was trying to integrate them into the understanding, because one of my clients came in, she belongs to this club, and she brought eight or nine of her friends, and they belong to a Bible study. So using the word God in that just to assimilate with them. And the other person got upset. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, get beyond getting upset at the word God. All right? When I mean God, I mean universal source. Like Mike said, it's not some white guy, some idea.
We paint this picture that it's like this very patriarchal figure that has held down society, and we get upset at it. And that's not what we're talking about, guys.
No, but it's not even that. Even if it is what we're talking about, why are we getting hung up on words? Because people are like...
Because it's mind.
Yeah, words hurt. I'm like, no, the meaning you give it. And
exactly.
All of a sudden, they're going to... What happens in the world today, especially during this period, we talk about political correctness, what you can and cannot say. There's always going to be an agitator that is always going to... Antagonist, I should say, that is always going to say that word because they
get out of people.
So if you stop getting upset at it, no one's going to say a word ever again.
That getting upset, that feel, that's giving energy, feeding exactly the opposite of what you want to experience. And Frank and I want to show you that when you do no longer feed those type of feelings, you then begin to experience them less and less and less. By you pushing against something, saying, this is wrong, I'm going to tell you why, because of this, all you're doing is experiencing that more and more. Yeah,
it's true. And then the paradox is when you get to that place where it doesn't bother you, and I know this, when I'm in a conscious state around people, I know what will trigger them and what don't, and I don't try to trigger
There's
anything.
No reason to trigger someone. No. The whole point of what we're trying to do is connect on a very neutral level. So when you pick up on that, I do the same thing, especially when talking to people.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
But I also flip it the other way. Like when I'm talking to my parents who it kind of experience...
That's a whole nother bag.
Catholic, they're devout Catholics, etc. the way I use God with them, they're seeing it differently. But I'm also, you can use the way people hear things to get your message across, is what I'm saying.
And it's not like, I'm like, I come to
see what I'm
realize
saying?
I'm not even trying, like in other words, what me and Mike are doing here, it's not like we're getting a message across necessarily. We're allowing people to come in and watch the unfolding of an experience right now.
We want you to peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, but me and Mike are having an experience right now. Like, we don't rehearse this at all. We don't even know what we're going to talk about until I press play on these mics and record on the video. And all of a sudden we sit down and we start out. What's happening is we're unfolding ideas, but we're using the base principles that work. Every religion at the base of them have these equations. All right? Everything does. The religion then is the philosophy, which can be like the inspiration, the motivation to do it. All right? So if I want to move and I enjoy running, we'll get running sneakers. If I like to be in a car going fast, then buy a car and drive in a car. Whether I run or drive a car, I'm moving. The physics doesn't change. The speed might change in the car different, so there'd be a greater speed. But the travel I can make it to California if I ran. It's going to take me a lot longer. Or I could take a car. So running, using the car, the airplane, the helicopter, what it is, those are different religions. But the equation, the physics behind it doesn't change. The greater than and less than are in that. But greater than and less than are just mathematical terms we use. One isn't better than the other. If you wanted to run to get exercise or whatever reason you did it, a car wouldn't do you any good.
I kind of want to go back to the conditioned mind portion, like how we were talking about these mental impressions of why we should react away. Like Frank gave the example. Somebody calls you an asshole and you get hurt and you're upset. You're like, what the hell? Screw you, man. That is a conditioned, learned response that we have been taught by society. So today, December 29th, right? So today's December 29th. And
I believe so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right.
Today I went to a funeral for my great aunt. My grandma's sister passed a week or two ago. And we had her funeral service today. And my sister has 3 children, young children, almost a year, 6, and then 9. And so she brought the 6 and 9-year-old, and I spent the funeral with them, and I loved it because
was it an open casket?
No, this was not an open casket.
Okay.
But I love being around children because they have not yet been conditioned. And so what I'm getting at is, I'm sitting there, and my 6-year-old nephew Adam says to me, he goes, "Hey, Uncle Mike." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "I don't get sad about death." And I looked at him and I said, "You don't need to be."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just kind of left it at that. And I said, trust how you feel. You're good. And he was just like, but it was in that moment that I really realized just how our most natural state of being here and just witnessing what's going on and not giving an emotion to it. It is so conditioned and learned over time. And it was so beautiful to hear him say that to me, and my heart kind of melted.
How old is he?
6.
Yeah, so he's still in that the ability where his brain isn't solidified to actually identify his past into now, and this shouldn't be happening. He's still on the precipice of that theta state of recording, so he doesn't know enough to do that. But the thing is this is what Jesus said when he said, "Become childlike." And we know too much to do it through the innocence of a 6-year-old. But through wisdom, we can actually we could unlearn what we've learned, because it doesn't do anyone. Because the people who died, guess where they're at? They no longer are holding their body. Can you imagine? It's like taking off a tight shoe. That's what happens when you die.
Yep.
It's like when you fall asleep, you just take off the shoe. It's the same thing. They just go into another plane. So the sadness that we have
is a learned response.
Yeah, but when you think about it, it isn't for their mortality. It's for ours. We're scared of our own death. People don't realize that. Like, people that get scared over their children. I'm like, I worry about them because I love them so much. I'm like, love and worry aren't in the same ballpark. If you love them, you don't worry about them. You're worried about them because you don't trust. And if you don't trust, you're not in the state of love. It's about finding that state and getting into that. And when you do that, you see everything works out. It doesn't mean you don't mourn. It doesn't mean you don't, we're not saying any of that. It doesn't mean you don't respond. I don't mean to become like just completely blank to everything, because we do have responses. But it's about the ability to control the response. I could be at a funeral and be at peace. I could be at Disneyland and be at peace. I'm not going to be screaming like I'm in a roller coaster or excited at a funeral. And I'm not going to be somber at Disneyland. But I could be excited in a state of peace, and I could be in a somber state and be in the state of peace as well. It's a separation.
It was just so beautiful hearing him say that. And I was just like, there's no need to be.
No,
you know?
Yeah.
And it was nice. And then it's kind of funny where we leave and, I say to, my niece and nephew, I'm like, hey, you guys ride with your Uncle Mike, and my brother, Uncle Tom. Come ride with your uncles.
I'm going to teach you about that.
Well, no. I was like, come get in my car. And so, because we all went to brunch after. And so my parents are in front. We're, behind my parents. And then my sister's behind, driving, following.
Was it a procession or whatever?
Yeah. Or this was actually after. So this was just us heading to the restaurants and stuff. And I go, Adam, what song do you want to listen to? What music should we put on? I was like, you pick first and then your sister. And so
was it like
he says, Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
And this is after a funeral, and it's just so funny. And I was like, you're right, Adam, we're going to put that on. So we put on this Mortal Kombat theme song. And like,
what song is Mortal Kombat?
Do. And it's like Mortal Kombat. You don't know that? What? Okay, so it's from the movie. Okay, it's from the movie, from the 90s movie.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, Frank, it's a classic. Okay, anyways.
I know Mortal Kombat. I just never.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was just so funny to me. And I found myself so in the moment of just so present, not a care in the world, nothing else except blasting Mortal Kombat with my niece and my nephew and my brother in this moving vehicle. These moments of presence, I could have never described that situation as being something special. It was one of the most special moments ever. And I was with my brother, my niece, my nephew. It was right after a funeral. All of these things, listening to a foolish song. But those pieces all together gave me a moment I will never forget and will always cherish, and I hold in my heart as so special.
Because
and we can look at any moment like that. Every moment is like that when you really look.
If you learn to choose your emotion. Your nephew chose the emotion that day.
He did.
He didn't buy into. He wasn't sold by some charlatan. The mode he should be in.
Not at all.
And then because it became contagious to you and Tom.
Yeah, and we're all blasting Mortal Kombat, doing these like karate moves.
And your mom's looking in the rearview mirror. What the hell's going on back there? What the hell are these people so excited?
This 6 and 9
Jenny
year old
just died.
All doing these karate moves in the back, and us just dying laughing, screaming Mortal Kombat.
Your sister's like,
it sounds so foolish to even say, but it was beautiful.
You can't hang out with your niece and nephew anymore. Your sister's like, don't listen to Mike.
It was great.
Crazy.
It was great.
It is.
And even talking about it is like, I feel it in my heart.
And that's what, like, we get to the place, and everyone wants to do this. I mentioned this before. One of the reasons we like characters such as, like, James Bond. James Bond chooses his response to any situation. Like, whether he's at a bar drinking a martini with a woman to the right and to the left of him, or he's being chased down and shot out with machine guns or whatever. He maintains the same disposition. He responds differently. He doesn't just sit there like a lump on a log while somebody shoots him. He gets out of the way. He pulls the gun. He does whatever he has to do. But his disposition doesn't change. He don't see him running, screaming down the street. And he's in control of his emotions, whether he's sitting at a bar drinking or he's being shot at. When you're being shot at and you're present, you act accordingly. You put into action. There's nothing wrong with that. But screaming will disallow you from going into the proper action to die. And that's what happens is people are told you have to act this way, you got to feel this way. And it's like, yeah, but how come it never works out? Because that's not how life is meant to be lived. You choose for yourself how you want to feel. And the closer you actually, just the fact that you're choosing means you're in control. If you control, the outside world will have no hold on you, ever. No matter what happens out there, yeah, there's a response to it. When it rains, I put the umbrella on. I don't just pretend it's sunny out. That's just ridiculous. But it doesn't affect me negatively unless I tie, oh, it's raining out. I can't do this. I can't do that. Oh, my God, it's sunny out. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm like, well, do what you can in the rain and do what you can do in the
so
snow.
It's funny how we do this.
Well, I know this because I used to do this. So,
why
the hell do you think I moved to Arizona,
life.
Right? And then it rained. Oh, shit.
Now I got to go back to being happy.
I got to call the governor. I'm like, I moved here. I was supposed to get rain. It said 300 days of sunshine.
But isn't that how some of us act?
Yeah,
you know, when we take things out on people for no reason and it's not their fault at all. We're just explosive because at the end of the day, our behavior is a direct representation of how we feel about ourselves.
Whatever state we're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I'm in a state of anger, I am going to act out
You see
angrily.
these people on the internet going viral for the most ridiculous things, calling the cops on people, doing these inappropriate things, being mean to people, you know, in public and all this stuff. These people are very hurt people on the inside, and they're experiencing a lot of suffering.
Well, they're not.
And they just don't know how to. They
don't know how to separate.
That's it. They are so
situation. Trapped
in the third dimension, this 3D reality. They are just playing out their karma and duking it out. And
did you hear about this? Someone just told me to say it. I didn't see it on news, so it's like I'm hearing this story secondhand. So anyone listening, if I get it wrong, just forgive me. But there was a woman on an airplane that lost her cool, and she like hit a guy, like an old guy, right?
Perfect example.
And she was like ex-cheerleader for some football team or whatever like that.
I didn't read this one.
Yeah, what happened was, it's like she has a condition where she just
Tourette's?
I don't know what it is. Someone told me, it's like, oh yeah, she has a condition. She didn't take her medication. So she started pounding on a guy, like an old guy, like started smacking him upside the head because supposedly she was sitting down, he was getting up to go to the bathroom, or she was getting up to go to the bathroom, I don't know which was, and she was walking, and a couple of aisles down, this guy was eating his food, so he has his mask down, and she lost his shit on him. So she gets caught up in all this stuff, and she did, like, probably
takes
make
it
it
on this poor dude.
Yeah. And then her excuse is like, yeah, I didn't take my meds that day. And I'm like,
that's just a justified grievance.
The fact that you have the ability to tell the story you didn't have meds, you actually have the ability to step back and separate yourself from the situation and realize when you're in a tube, you're in a fuselage, you shouldn't be smacking people upside the head. And I just find it interesting that people's like, well, she didn't take her medication.
But do you see what the society does? We say, oh, she didn't take her medication.
Yeah.
No. What she did was absolutely inappropriate and wrong.
Well, it was inappropriate and wrong based on the
But she needs to accept the situation. Said absolutely not.
But because
that's true growth.
Because she's so close to it, she can't. I understand.
Separate.
She can't separate.
But that's what we're talking about, living in the third dimension. So when she can't see that, oh my God, I'm just justifying my actions. She needs to take responsibility for it.
And that really is mental illness. So when someone is mentally ill, like someone was talking...
Well, then the entire world's mentally ill.
Well, I don't
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I only really know the people around me, and I only know myself. And even the people around me, it's a concept. So when I talk of this stuff, I can only go through my own experiences that I had if I want to speak the truth. Because if I'm like, people like talk about, oh, you see what Elon Musk said and this, and I'm like, dude, you don't really know what Elon Musk was thinking when he said it. Did he sit there and define it and everything else? So you're taking snippets of everything and run it. I only know what I think when I say, and I always corrected myself. And like Mike said earlier, when I tell a story today and I tell it tomorrow, 50% of it's freaking lost and then I have to learn to embellish, and I do that really well. So
that's what we all do.
I only can know my mental illness, and my mental illness was when I couldn't separate from the story I was telling myself.
In your head.
In my head. But why can I separate from the story when I'm watching Breaking Bad? Because it's not me. Well, my story that's running in me isn't me either. When I learned to separate, because
You've just experienced it 365 for 40 years.
How we know this works is we understand the theory, or it's not theory, it's actual physics, but what we call fractals. So fractals are minutiae of the whole. So everything is broken down. So everything, this little, like in broccoli, if I take a little piece of the dark green and you put it under a microscope, you got a light green stem and fuzzy. You keep doing it. You keep going. It represents the whole broccoli in that little piece. So if that's the case, if everything's a fractal, it breaks down that way. So I am in a movie. I'm the lead role in the movie.
There's more evidence that we are in a simulation than we're not.
Yeah.
But still, that's a very
we are and
very deep way to think.
So when I'm out with my friends and we're out, having fun, I fully immerse myself into the role like a great actor would. But there's something in me that knows that this is just a role. So don't overthink it. What are they going to think of me? Who cares? Just play the role. But then I can play it and I could separate from it. I don't get out, leave the restaurant or the bar or whatever it is and get in my car and I'm like, oh my God, did I act like an idiot? I'm like, I don't give a shit how I act because that wasn't who I am. I literally separate from the role. You don't think Tom Hanks walks around worrying about what people think about Forrest Gump, do you? No, it was a role he played. You can separate yourself. And even Tom Hanks, who he really is, learns to separate. Well, we all do. I guess he does. I don't know. I don't really talk to Tom Hanks, but
So I want to backtrack a little bit about what we were just kind of talking about. So when you were saying like you only know obviously what your experience has been, and we don't know that of others, and I completely agree with that statement. The feeling I had growing up that I very distinctly remember was thinking that these thoughts and these feelings that I was having, like these anxious thoughts or what's next or why aren't I doing this right, were only specific to me. And I felt this very much, and I didn't want to talk about them with other people, and I internalized them. And then as I got older, I kept thinking, okay, it's just got to get better. I just got to, get that job, and then everything's going to kind of even out, and then I'm going to feel good, Okay, well, I got a good paying job, it didn't change anything, Okay, I got the house, I got the girlfriend. Okay, none of that changed anything. And so we keep saying, okay, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. What I'm getting at with what I'm saying is we are all experiencing these same internal thoughts that are, some are, all over the place. Some are easier, some are not. We're all experiencing them in a very, very different way. And they're not our thoughts. And in fact, there's so many thoughts, just like a wavelength, that will go through our head. Think about it, like these stupid thoughts that you were like, oh, I can't believe I'd ever think something like that. And it just, drifts away. These thoughts are something that we should not be ashamed of talking about. These thoughts are things that when we as a community come together and address, we're like, oh,
yeah, but what it is,
I'm not the only one suffering from this.
No, but this is where the suffering comes from. The only thoughts don't just creep in. You entered into a state, and that's where the thought is. So, again, like I said before, if you want to see the ocean, you better be in a state that has an ocean. But you won't be in Arizona, and the ocean won't come flying in. So what happens is, it's like people talk about the chicken and egg. But when you get into a state of joy, only joyful thoughts will be there. If you find yourself in agonizing thoughts, it means you're in a state of agony. So we talk about this, but how many holes or how deep do you have to dig this? I'm like, get out of that state. Grab onto another state. You can sit in Arizona all day long and plead to see an ocean. It ain't going to happen. I must go to a state that has an ocean and see the ocean. So the ocean would then represent the thought.
I just want people to see that you are not alone at all in these feelings. No. Because when that creates this victim mentality of it's different for me.
We also don't want to let people know it's, in other words, it's okay, accept it, but we don't want them to wallow in it because a lot of therapists keep people in depression.
They do.
It's okay to be depressed.
Yeah, they justify their grievances.
Yeah, depression is an experience. Do you prefer it? No, I don't. Well, then get into a state where depression doesn't happen. It's like, how do I know what that is? I'm like, well, you can't identify depression if you were never happy.
So I once...
You really can't, because you wouldn't know what sun is unless it was rainy out. You wouldn't know what blue was if there was no other colors. So the fact that if everything was blue, you wouldn't recognize blue. So the fact that you know what depression is, it means you know what happiness is. So close your eyes to the world, because there's something out there that's generating the frequency that you're attaching to that's creating depression. Close your eyes to the world. Breathe in and breathe out for 5 minutes. All of a sudden, you go to a neutral place. In that neutral place, it's like being in a hub of an airport. You look up. Where do you want to go? What plane do I want to get on? Choose the plane.
So I once heard that thoughts being described as a thought needs a host in order for... Thoughts are just kind of these wavelengths that are all out there and all around us, right? Mm-hmm. We can't see them because our eyes can only see certain types of light, blah, 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 blah. There is so much going on around us that we can't visibly see, touch, smell, hear, etc. We just can't, as our body can't do it.
Just like I can't see the ocean from Arizona.
Yeah,
but if I go to San Diego, I can.
There you go.
Yeah.
These thoughts, these thought forms, they need a host. Just like us, they want to be carried out. So if we are in that state that Frank is discussing, it's easier for these thoughts to use our bodies as a host. And I thought this was a brilliant way of describing it, but it's true. These thoughts can't manifest and stay in a host that's saying, hey, I'm not going to feel this way. I don't need to put my attention here. Yeah. I know my worth. I know I have faith. I trust. They can't stay in a host like that. They won't survive, so they must move on. This is what we're doing. This body is not what we think it is. Yeah. You're hosting these ideas. You're carrying out these experiences. We are mind, body, spirit. We're not just this one singular body. This thing is an instrument, and when you know how to use it, whoo.
Yeah, our intellect is what's destroying the instrument.
Yeah,
we think we know too much.
Analytical thinking. It's the thinking mind. Yeah. When you can elevate above the thinking mind, that's what Frank and I are talking about.
In other words, you don't have to think for a Bluetooth speaker. It knows what to do. Yeah. But you have to connect to it. Once I connected my phone to the Bluetooth speaker, it automatically knows what to do. I don't even have to fear it. What I do is now I experience it.
And connecting through that is through silence.
So
it's through no thought. It's very funny because it's what you think. That you have to think your way to figure it out. No. You can't. Quite the opposite.
That's matter with matter. It just doesn't work. Now, to clarify, too, all right, when I find myself in a state and have these thoughts running in, which the thoughts will... When the thoughts come in, it lets me know what state I'm in. So if I'm driving around and I see saguaro cactus and mountains, mountain ranges, it lets me know I'm in the state of Arizona, so to speak. All right? So once I know I'm in the state of Arizona... Because I am not attached to Arizona, I could then go forth and go to San Diego. But if you don't know where you are, you can't get to where you want to be. So it's recognizing where I am. So if you're having these thoughts, recognize you're actually a mobile being. You're not attached to these thoughts. You're not attached to the state that's allowing the thoughts to come in. So you have to recognize it. It's not delusional stuff. I don't mean to be delusional. Like, if it's raining out, it's raining out. Yeah. This is pragmatic stuff. This is physics. All of a sudden, I don't like the way I feel. Well, why? Because I want to feel this way. I'm like, okay, you're just in a state of misery right now. But you aren't the state of misery. You're just walking through it. You're a guest in the state of misery.
You're hosting that at that moment.
So get out of there and go into the state in which you want.
And what Frank just described so beautifully, by the way, very well said. No, but truly, that was great, is you are the awareness. You're the witness. Yeah. And that's what he's saying.
And when I'm aware of, because me and Mike will say is, I'll never, ever get angry ever again and not know why. So whenever I say it, people are looking at me. I'm like, it does. I don't sit there. My goal is not to never get angry again. And what happens paradoxically, I don't get angry.
There's no reason.
There's no reason. But that's
You're
not
fighting
my
against
goal.
Yourself.
It's not a goal. I never want to fight again. I'm like, well, you're going to be fighting a lot. It's like a protest against something.
This whole thing, guys, is you versus yourself.
Yeah. It's like, I don't protest against something. I move towards something I'd rather see, because we're efficient beings by nature. All right. Now we understand the physics, the equations, how they work. When I finally put the horse in front of the carriage, because all these years I had the carriage in front of the horse, I then become more efficient. So me protesting against something is not a good investment in my time or energy. Yes, I see something over here that I don't like. Well, then I must become that thing I want to like and actually move towards that. That will always exist.
And that will always be love, by the way, guys.
Yeah, it will.
It's never going to be...
But if I'm fighting it, I'm trying to get someone to stop yelling at me, they're going to yell more, because I'm yelling at them. So I don't go in the field of protest. I go in the field of doing something. I move towards the thing I want to see, and I grow. So become the change you want to see.
Tell that Mother Teresa story. Remember what she said about war?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, like she was asked... and everyone knows who Mother Teresa is.
Yeah, everybody. No, truly,
Mother who? Let's look at Google her. But anyway, she pretty much spent most of her adult life in Calcutta helping out, which is like one of the most poorest places in India, probably in the world. But anyway, she's a very peaceful, loving person, and she was asked to march against the Vietnam War in protest. And her response was, I will not protest and march against something, but I'll be the first one there if you have a march for peace. For something, not against.
She got it.
Going against something is like throwing your money out the window. Going for something is investing something you know is going to grow.
Very profound.
I'm not going to plant a seed in the desert that there's no water. I'm going to plant a seed on fertile soil. But protesting is like planting a seed in the desert, and if there's no enough nutrients and water to have that germinate, it's not going to work. We know this. Life teaches us this. Plant your seed in the sand, see what happens. And then plant it in the fertile soil and see what happens. Protesting is planting it in the sand. Do it. Go for it. It's an experience. I'm not saying don't do it. But you soon realize it's not going to work.
And Frank and I, we are not anti-protest, anti-right.
No, I'm not anti-anything.
What we're saying is protest for what you want to be and see in the world.
Move towards what you want to see. Don't, because we're becoming more efficient, so we move in there. So you're starting to see this all over the place. Like, there was a time when someone that wanted to go to Mars and put a rock into orbit had to get permission from the government. Now we have a person just doing it, or people doing it. And guess what? It's going to help humanity. Now, you can look at all the stuff, how it's going to ruin humanity, but that's how you're looking at it. I choose to look at it differently, and no one's wrong here. But what do you prefer? Because whatever he's doing, he's going to figure something out. It's not that I personally want to go to Mars. I have nothing against it either. But in the interim of him getting there, and him, I'm talking about Elon Musk, he's going to discover new technologies. So if he has to create oxygen and water, make more water on Mars and oxygen, and he has to use technology to do it, there might be places in Africa where they can't get clean water, and that technology that he's going to take to Mars, they could use over there. It's going to benefit all. Because when he thinks, from what I understand, he includes everyone.
I respect Elon Musk. He's very conscious.
Yeah, person. However you think about him and stuff like that. And people are like, we can't do that and this and that. And I'm like, again.
People are hating on the character of him.
We have
persona.
to. Listen, I tell people that are saying
he's awake.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He can't do that and all this stuff. I'm like, listen, you would have been the first person that I told, like, if it was back in like 1985 and I says, hey, like in the early 2000s, I don't know when, like, the smartphone came out.
2007 was the iPhone.
Oh, the iPhone. One day you're going to be able to drive in your car with your hands on the wheel, and all of a sudden the phone's going to ring. You press a button on your steering wheel, and you're going to be able to talk to your buddy that's across the country through the speakers as you're keeping both hands on the wheel, and they're like, you're out of your fucking mind.
And then when you park,
pardon the French, by the way,
switch over to FaceTime. You know what I mean?
They would have been like, that cannot happen. But think of all the naysayers in the world to history. I'm like, come on. Why? Listen, again, if you're a naysayer, why are you investing your energy in saying it can't be done? Just let it go. Like, why do you care? Right? Either get
Because
behind
it's
them
the
or
pain
do your own
inside.
thing.
We gotta hate.
I think it's insane. You're investing your time protesting against something that can't be done, and guess what? When he makes it to Mars, who's going like you just wasted your time. Like, if someone can and cannot do something, it has no bearing on my life. But when I see something, I'm like, okay, I can see the value in that, so I want to get behind that and support that. It doesn't mean I'm hating on other people. I moved to Arizona. It doesn't mean I hate Alaska. That's just ridiculous. But one day I might want to live in Alaska. I don't know.
And the media tries to often divide us into you're either this or that.
Well, the reason that's how they make money. The media has to put black against white,
Yep.
male against female, poor against rich. Because if there's a divisiveness, if there's an opposition, they make money because they become the referee. We don't need a referee because we're not fighting people. We're collaborating.
Remember that story about the ants? They put the group of, I believe it was like these red fire ants and then there's something other ant. It was like a white ant, I believe. And they were peacefully coexisting. And then all of a sudden, inside this jar. And then all of a sudden somebody came up and shook the jar violently and then set it down. And the two ants, the red and then the white ants, began to fight each other because they thought either the different one did this to me.
Well, that too.
But I just thought that was very interesting.
It is interesting.
We're being shaken up.
Yeah, and even when I heard someone talk about these experiments with rats and stuff like that. But we have to take in consideration the person shook it up, sent a disorganized energy in there. The the ants aren't like, get that bastard. They don't have the frontal lobe like we do. They have a brain, so they know how to do it. But what happens, the energy field was fed to them. We fed the energy field. And that's what happened. But they don't have the frontal lobe to think about, let's get that red ant over there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So when they do these experiments with rats, and the rat always takes the heroin and does that, and it's like, Michael Pollan, he was talking about that, and he goes, yeah, but the problem with that is, if you took rats and had them in natural habitat, like this out, and you put a water thing, a dapper on there that had heroin in it, they would walk right by it. Because they're free. But if you were in prison, you'd probably want the heroin to escape because the heroin allows you to escape. So when they do these in confined, they're doing it in prison. Yeah, you want to escape from that. So they're very misguided and short-sighted
with the
experiments. Data. But if they took a rat and put it in its natural habitat, like run through somebody's house, and it made it take the heroin, got it, but it wouldn't go look for it again. It's got too many other things to do. It's got another wall to tear through.
And that's why our problems and our sufferings...
Because we put ourselves in a prison.
We do.
And in that prison, the only way it can get out is by doing this and doing that. Drinking a six-pack of beer.
Says who? Says our mind.
Now,
says the ego.
Now, what I'm trying to say here is there's nothing wrong with drinking a six-pack of beer if you're conscious. But if you're doing it to forget the misery of you're in trouble. But if I could go in and drink a beer or not drink a beer, I'm choosing it. There's a difference. So it has nothing to do with the beer. Because it wouldn't be here if it was truly bad for us. It's our relationship to the item that's good or bad. Social media isn't inherently bad. It's my relationship to it. Is it distracting me from my goals or my purpose or whatever we want to call it? If it is. But if social media is parcel of my experience, it's not bad, right? Like me and Mike use social media to get the experience that we're having here talking. We just want people to watch this experience unfold. Whatever you get from it's great. We're not here to teach anyone anything. We're here to get people to remember what they already know. Like me and Mike don't know any more than anybody else. But me and Mike are sitting here and saying stuff we never said before in the form we ever said is because we're remembering. We get into a state and we start to remember. Our DNA becomes alive and offers up new information based on the knowledge I had previous. But yet I'm catapulting into the future to something unknown. I've never said it this way before. And next week I'll never say it the same way. Yes, there are things I reiterate from the time before and the time before and the time before, but I'm placing them in different positions in this conversation. But then there are things I never said before. and that will continue to happen. So me and Mike are having this ultra experience, and we want every human being out there to have it, not to emulate it, but to have their own.
And Frank, I know Frank believes this too, you are already there.
Yes.
There is nothing you have to do to achieve this.
No.
It's more of a letting go. It's not
changing,
doing or adding steps or anything. This is more a letting go.
Not so much even letting go, just changing your perspective on it.
Yeah, and when I say letting go, people say, "Oh, I can't let go. How do I let go?"
Change perspective.
But we mean relax.
Yeah.
Just allow, like, take your shoulders right now. Just let them slip down, and feel this relaxation come over your body. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's your most natural state. These concepts, you already know them within. That's why you know there's truth. That's the reason you're listening. There's truth.
If you understand, if you're in a nice state of relaxation.
The thing is, it's the repetition of your mind that you got to get over. That's all it is. And so when you get up and the mind saying this and that, you simply drawing your awareness to it and going, no. This is the mind. I don't have to feed it this program. I don't have to feed us this same commentary every day that I have been for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
I'm going to change today. You have taken control of your life, and you have changed your perspective.
And how do you do that? Like, if I wake up, my mind's racing, and I sit on the couch and just close my eyes and have a mantra that has no meaning to it, all of a sudden my thoughts that I was thinking go away. Why they go away? Because I entered into a different state. So when I leave the state I'm in, I no longer see the subjects in which the state is in. So closing my eyes to the world, that's why when we go to sleep, it's great, because you actually fly above all states. You're no longer in it. If you know you could sit down and close your eyes and enter into a different state, oh my God, you own the world. You could then choose the state from that place.
And we do own the world.
Yeah. People wait for the vacation to get into that. Say, I got 6 more weeks. And like, oh my God, I can't wait. I got to do it now.
And they hold the tense body, the stress. I only got 6 more weeks of this till I can let go. There's no one doing that but yourself.
And what happens is I would do this when I go on vacation.
You're not making the situation better or worse.
Yeah, when I would go on vacation years ago, it was the anticipation of maybe not being at this place before or whatever, but the excitement generating up to it. But the second I got on vacation, know what I did? Did the same thing I did when I wasn't working. I mean, when I was at home. Got up and did the same old routine, same thing. And the funny thing is, now when I'm on vacation, I'm not working. I'm like, okay, now I got all this routine over, like going to the gym, getting up early, doing this. And all of a sudden, I was doing all these things because it made me feel good because I was misunderstanding. All of a sudden, by 10 o'clock, I'm like, now what? Let's go out to eat. Now what? Let's do this. And, I can't wait to go to bed again.
That's the mind.
And then it's like, oh, my God.
What's next?
Then it's like, oh, shit, vacation's over tomorrow. I got to go back to this thing. I don't need to go anywhere to vacate. I vacate every second of every day. And when I get caught up in the world, right when I get caught up in it, it may run for 20 minutes. I'm like, whoa. I could be in the middle of something with somebody. I don't need to go shut my eyes. I could just set the barrier. And when I set the space in between it, that's vacating from the persona who I am. I'm not throwing the persona to the side. I'm just now watching it. And I'm like, whoa.
You're the witness.
I'm the witness. But I'm still attached to it. I'm still connected to it. But there's a space between it. Just like there's a space, an idea of a space between me and the movie. I'm not in the movie. I'm observing the movie. Well, there's a part of me that's observing the persona that's sitting in front of this microphone. It's not a part of it. It isn't. It's not attached to it. It's hovering around it. It's connected, but it isn't it entirely. So therefore, the separation allows me to control the emotions. It allows me to choose the state in which I want to be in.
And that's what matters most, is how it feels.
Yeah. And it is about, obviously the show is called Perspective Shift. Just play with this.
That's what life is.
Close your eyes, do a 3 to 5 minute meditation, breathing in, and then take the subject matter that got you rattled and just try to look at it differently. If you go look at it differently, get aggravated again. Go close your eyes again. Breathe in. Say the word in silently. When you breathe out, say the word silently out. In, out, in, out. Okay, I feel good. Now, keep your eyes closed. Think about that coworker that got you upset. And can you just look and say, okay, maybe they had a rough day at home. Okay, it doesn't bother me much. You literally change the sequence of events that happen, and the circumstance still remained the same. You now own the world. If I can choose that, and if you have to tell a story that, forgive them for they not what they do, because, my coworker was being mean to me because someone was being mean to them. Now I have compassion. And I don't take it personally.
You flip the story.
Yeah.
The thing is, guys, we tie ourselves into these pretzels inside of our head, and we're like, this person didn't respond the way I thought they were going to. They must think I'm this, or they must hate me now. And we tie ourselves up in these mental struggles and strife of how we think other people are perceiving us in the situation.
Yeah.
But in all reality, everybody is just worried about themselves and doing the same thing. And so none of these things ever really matter.
No, but isn't it funny how we have a sequence of stories that we allow this? And I was telling this to somebody, and this didn't happen, but I used the example. I was kind of trying to be humorous. Yeah. But I said, it's like, if I told Karen, it's going to be home at a certain time and I show up an hour late, all right? Now, if I showed up an hour late because I stopped off at a bar to have a drink with a buddy, that would be inconsiderate. So that's not a story I would choose, even if that's the one I did. The story would go like this.
Where are you going with this one, right?
Yeah. So Karen's like, why are you an hour late? I'm like, there was a shootout on the freeway. Are you okay?
Digging the hole.
So
digging your own grave,
it's funny
brother.
Because if I told her I stopped off at a bar to have a drink with a buddy, she'd be pissed. But if I told her there was a shootout and the cops had everything, blocked off, she'd be like, oh my God, are you okay? Sit down, let me, whatever. But I'm still an hour late. All I did is change the perspective of the story, and she was okay with it. And I'm like, that's pretty funny. So now you're actually training me to lie to you. Because I don't want you to be upset. Right?
Frank and I totally are not telling people to lie.
No.
But what he's trying to convey is,
don't
no
go to
matter
the bar.
what
Do
way
not go to the
we
bar.
present something,
we
can present it in this way or that way, and it's how it's received.
And the reason I brought that up is if you have a coworker that gets upset at you, anticipate something bad happened to him, not that they stopped at the bar to have a drink with their friend.
Put a different perspective onto it.
And it's not,
don't always assume the worst like we naturally
and
do.
And it's not for them, it's for you. I want to feel good. I don't want to invest my energy into sourness, because when I feel bad, that's the precipice.
Well, and you start
of
to
cancer,
realize it's never
of
about
disease.
you.
No,
it's
not.
never about you.
Yeah. Well, I can make it about me if I get stuck in the 3D world.
Yeah, and we get really wrapped up.
Oh,
this is why he's not talking to me. It's because I said this.
And guess what?
What?
People are like, you're right. You're absolutely right, damn
People
it.
will agree.
Back you
Why?
up.
Because everything is a reflection of us.
Now
So the friends you're hanging out
with. Now you got a mob with a bunch of flames. Like, I'm dating myself.
Hey, no, there's still mobs with flames, dude.
Oh, really? Yeah, we use cell phones now, right?
Well, no, there's what are you talking
flames.
about?
They have like the little torch flames.
All these different protests and stuff going on.
They have torches and shit?
They definitely have stuff.
Are we back in the dark ages?
No, man, they've got fire. Yeah,
they got fire. Right on.
They do.
Right on. I haven't been to a protest in years.
No need. You know.
Don't need.
Don't need.
Hey, what's going on there? Where'd you get the torch? Like, where do you buy a torch at Home Depot? Hey, what aisle the torches on? Like, what? Yeah, I'm going to this protest on Saturday. I need a torch. We got tiki torches. Can you imagine showing up to a protest with a tiki torch?
They did that. They did that at that one
tiki
place.
Torches.
Yeah, Charleston.
Tiki torches. Polynesians, I don't think protest. They're like the very peaceful.
Right,
yeah.
But I know. I'm
thinking about the torch that Fred.
I know
Flintstone
exactly
had.
what you're talking about.
The
Yeah,
one they have like in caves.
Straight
and
up
shit.
like a wooden baseball bat
like
with
a baseball bat with like some
white
oil
wrapped
on
around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like the bandana. You know, and then lit on fire.
Bandana.
I don't know, like that.
Yeah, the cloth. Yeah,
or like something like Brendan Fraser and the Mummy would hold.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, where do you get that at Home Depot? Like, where do you pick one of those up? Like,
Amazon.
Amazon.
They carry everything.
Get a torch.
You know.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look at a torch. See if I can. It'll probably be a tiki torch.
See what I can find.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, guys, your perspective is the only thing you have in life.
Well, the thing is, when you actually choose a perspective that's preferential, you will then actually paint the outside world different, and then Your imagination is the thing that allows you to perceive it. So perspective is something we have control over. The outside world we don't. So if it's raining out, this sucks. Well, how does that make you feel? Perceive it. I'm like, oh, now I get to sit on the couch and watch a great movie without feeling bad. I'm like, that's a good perspective. That's as simple as it can be. Don't make it difficult.
We try to think and try to control the outside world, but
you can't.
It's only our perspective.
But
that's
actually,
all we can really control.
The paradox is when you control your perspective, you start
Everything
to organize the
changes
outside world.
of
You start to organize the outside world.
And that's the beauty of what Frank and I are
we're
talking
not
about. That's living in heaven.
Perspective
harmony.
shift isn't putting up with and fooling yourself.
No, hell no.
But in the beginning, when you have to shift your perspective on something, eventually you get really good at it. You actually start to engineer the outside world.
I'm glad you said that, because often when I discuss these concepts with people, they're like, oh, so you just mean like I need to put my head in the sand and pretend like that doesn't exist?
No.
I said, no. Exactly the opposite. You're fully aware that these exist. You're just now refusing to give any of your energy to these ideas or to these situations because you understand the laws of the universe. They will only begin to expand, and I will only experience them more.
Yeah, the old axiom? It's a simple one. When you have lemons, make lemonade. All right? That's what we're talking about. And you can only make lemonade out of lemons if you change your perspective to the sourness of them. And when you have the ability to do that, or you have the ability to cry that you have lemons because you can't contain them, you can't eat them, they're just too sour. But if you make lemonade, you can suck it down. It's up to you to choose it. No one's going to choose it for you. But why not choose the lemonade over just the lemon when you have them? You have that power, and that's how the world changes. Don't try to protest the lemons. I want apples. You got a lemon. What are you going to do with it? The most successful people in the world
understand these concepts.
They play the cards that they're dealt. They don't ask for another deck.
They don't say, do I get a retry? This wasn't a good hand.
This is not fair. I'm cheated. They just do it. It's like, how the hell did you win the game with those cards? And then they show you how. I'm like, oh, I never looked at it that way. Absolutely you didn't look at it that way.
Because
but now
there's
you do.
infinite ways.
There's infinite ways to look at it. You could win with any hand. You just have to, just know you can.
That's
and
it.
Then close your eyes to the outside world and what everyone tells you, and you'll figure a way. It will come to you.
There is no outside circumstance that can hold you back from achieving everything and anything you want.
And all these things we're talking about are entering into the unknown, so I can't even advise people on what to do to get there because I'm not even there. But the only advice I give somebody, if you close your eyes and go within,
I know it's there.
It will tell you what to move. Just like the GPS. GPS, when you put the coordinates in, check this out. When you put the address in the GPS, it will then dial back to you and say, you should reach your destination in X amount of hours. Now, if you do not put the car in drive and move, it doesn't say another thing. It won't. But once I start moving, it will say in 400 feet, make a right. And then I make the right. And then when I keep driving down, it won't say anything until I need to get in position of the next direction.
Step.
Yeah. But if I made the right and pulled over, nothing is going to come out of GPS's mouth.
And
if I'm sitting idle in my driveway, the only thing it will say after I punch it in, you should reach your destination X amount of hours. And then you're like, now what? I'm like, take action. What's that? Move in the direction or move out of your driveway, and then it will tell you what direction to move in. There is action to take.
New opportunities will appear. Things will just pop up.
Well,
You'll know.
The word attraction.
And the best part is there's no wrong way to accomplish it. So whatever way you go, you will be rerouted.
Yeah,
as long as you center yourself.
That's it. And then you learn efficiency. So what we think is wrong is just distraction, but distraction's a great teacher to do it. So you really didn't do anything wrong. You're just getting better at it.
Distraction is just kind of part of the gig.
Like did the 9-month-old get it wrong when they stood up and fell down?
Hell no.
No, it was part and parcel of
learning to walk,
learning to balance, and eventually did.
And that's what we're trying to do with a business or with a family or with friends or relationship. We're trying to learn to walk, and everybody's too afraid to fall. Why?
Yeah.
Fall. and you'll get right back up. And I'm
And you
telling you
learn
right
not
now,
to
it's
fall.
from somebody that has failed multiple times in his life.
Well, yeah,
No one remembers the failures.
Yeah.
People only remember when you're up.
Yeah. And it's like,
And that's the truth.
even like ease off the word failure. I'm like, they're just experiences that taught us that didn't work out.
I guess what people would normally classify as a failure.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Nothing is a failure unless
Actually,
I classify
if you
it that
learn
way.
to be
Nothing is unless I say it is so.
Yeah, if you learn to be steadfast focused, you won't fail.
And people are like, oh, what do you mean? It only is if you say it is so. These people believe it. What do you care what these people believe? You know, people always say things like that to me. Well, like, that's not what everyone else thinks. Mm-hmm. Who's everyone else? And why are you living by everyone else's terms and conditions? Because I'm telling you right now, if I live by everyone else's ideas of how the world should be, man, I would be suffering. Because guess what? The idea of this must be done and this must be done, there's a reason we can't accomplish a million things. We all have the same number of hours in a day. And all these ideas of a perfect life, white picket fence, you know, laundry being complete and ready and beds made and folded and house perfect. These are outdated ideas of this picture that was created that just simply isn't true.
And why they're outdated? Because everyone got the white picket fence and
realize, what the fuck? I'm still upset.
Yeah, if you didn't have it, if you didn't have it, you wouldn't know that it's not the end all.
And in fact, I struggled a lot to get all this. And why doesn't it feel better than this?
You don't see white picket fence in Arizona.
No,
it's weird.
Yeah.
Is it weird? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like see in New York, I saw them.
Do they?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some houses, you know, over in like, you know, certain areas.
Yeah.
You know, they'll try to bust them out, you know. And
white picket fences, yeah.
But it's just this mental picture that we create, you know. And so, says who? Well, says everyone. You're not living by what you want to live. You're living by the expectations that others have set for you. And this is why you'll never live up to the projections your parents put on you. You'll never live up to the projection your girlfriend or your boyfriend put on you. Nor do you have to.
Or nor would you want to. Yeah.
Or nor would you want to. Guess what? None of those projections are you, what you should be, or any of the above.
And it's interesting. Even these projections they're starting to soften up. Like, I can imagine the projection my grandfather had onto my dad and my dad onto me and me onto my son. You know, there are
very different.
There are certain base understandings that never change. But the way to look at it, like my dad's like, get a job that has a good, benefits and this and that. And I'm like, I'm 17. I'm like, I'm not thinking about retirement and benefits. But all of a sudden you get scared. It's like life's going to be difficult out there, and you buy into it. So you go down that road and you get a job out of the sequence of thinking you have to, and there's no enjoyment in it. But my generation's telling our kids, get a job you enjoy if you're going to do this for the rest of your life. And then you look at people like Warren Buffett, and he doesn't even know what the word retirement is. The guy's 91 years old. Retire from what? I don't know. I don't want to know the concept of retirement. So I was taught about retiring. I can't wait to get to 62. I'm like, what do you think's going to happen at 62?
That everything's just going to get great?
Yeah, you still got to take the garbage out. I'm like, you might have a couple of weeks of distraction of not having to get up at the alarm, but I'm like, then what? You were programmed to do something day in and day out, and you think that program's just going to die with your... No. Enjoy what you're doing now. You might do something different, but what is retirement? It's an outdated concept as well. And it's funny because people are like,
it's great for worker bees, and that's what we've kind of been trained to do.
I heard someone, this is funny, and a lot of people probably out there heard people talk about this, but we're starting to live longer. So when they set the idea of like Social Security at like 62 and now it's at 65, and all of a sudden they're running out of money because people are living a lot longer, and they're like, holy shit, if I live a lot longer, then I'm going to have to work till I'm 80. I'm like, you're fucking living till 120. Why do you care? So, like, would you want to die at 45 so you can retire at 30? I'm like, let's think about the concept behind that. I'm like, you're shortening your life because but it's like, I don't want to live till 120. Means you got to work till I'm 80. I'm like, That's one way of looking at it. Like, and they're not wrong, but that's just a warped way of looking at it. Like, it really is, you know.
That is funny.
Yeah. When I want to keep moving into the unknown every day of my life until I take my last breath and fall into the hole or the furnace, whatever. They'll probably cremate me.
Leap and the net will appear, my friend.
Yeah. So there's no retiring from the unknown.
From life.
Yeah, there's no retiring from it. So I'm just going to keep going. Now, I'm not setting a schedule. I'm going to end it here. One day I'll wake up and just make a left or a right, or maybe I'll continue. I don't know. But whenever I say I want to do this by this age, I'm like, why did I just say that? I just set myself up. Now I have to do it. I got to struggle. I got to make it happen. I'm like, I don't have to make any. Like, I didn't make any of this shit before me happen. I just stepped into it, and I go in. Yeah, but one day I probably will wake up and shift and change and do that, you know. But right now, I'm enjoying the path I'm on, or the direction I'm moving on the path, I should say. Because I'm never off the path. It's just moving different directions and looking at the path differently. Yeah. But, like, I'm done with that 5-year plan and what I'm going to do. I'm like, no. I'm like, something's going to show up 5 years from now. But if I keep stepping into the unknown, how can I plan in the unknown? There's no excitement in that. None. I want to wake up every morning like the 6-year-old and sees a big red box under the Christmas tree. And then when I open it up, that's where the joy comes. I play with it every day. Every day. Because I'm going into the unknown. I'm not opening up the same gift I opened up yesterday. When I do open up the same gift, I separate from it. I wish it well, and I move on. That's what I'm working towards. I'm heading towards. I'm in. Sometimes I get distracted.
Like any of us.
Yeah. But when I get distracted, it slings me back in. That's the beauty. Where before I understood these principles, I distracted and got in that zone. And I'm like, oh my God, that was great. And then boom, I got sucked out.
I heard a funny saying that it's, wait, your life doesn't need to fall apart as much when you're conscious. Or life doesn't need to fall apart. Life doesn't need to fall apart as often and get your attention when you're already awake.
Yeah.
You know? So essentially what it's saying is when you find yourself in those, what's happening? You're in that 3D. Your life, quote unquote, is falling apart. Things aren't working out, etc. That's just a realignment type of thing.
Yeah, when you're unconscious, life seems lucky and unlucky. But when you're conscious, it's not luck. It's direction. It's focus.
Yes.
Yeah. And now when I'm in the state of knowing now, when I fall into distraction, I know what happened. It wasn't luck or bad luck. It was simply distraction. In conscious state, this is what happens when I move into the unknown. It's exhilarating, excitement. But if I get distracted and try to replicate the past, and I bring it up and I move into it and I get the same thing, I'm like, oh, I just got distracted. That's all. I don't blame anybody. And I don't blame myself. I laugh at when I get distracted now, because that's the quickest way. Laughter is the quickest way through perspective. They call it perspective shift. It's a shift in perspective. That's what makes us laugh. It happens so quick. It's like instant, you know? And that's what I've learned to do. So I don't worry about getting distracted, because I used to worry about getting distracted. I'm so damn focused. Leave me alone. Now
beat yourself up for that, because I went through that phase.
I was a miserable bastard.
You know, where you're like, you should be further than this, or you should know better. Fuck this says this random little programming voice running around in my head.
Yeah, yeah. I have this little thing that comes out. It's like it's Bugs Bunny leaning on me eating a carrot.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do today?
Yeah,
yeah. And then the other side is Elmer Fudd.
That's how it works.
That lazy rabbit.
That's the whole point of.
I don't have a devil and angel. I got Mickey Mouse. I mean, I got freaking Bugs Bunny and
Fudd.
Elmer Fudd on the other side.
That's it.
Yeah. You got that, Karen? What's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc? But that's it, guys. That's what we're getting at. That's what this life is.
It's an experience.
It is an experience, and it's so perfect.
And there is a formula. If you understand the formula, you'll have control of it.
And that's the beauty.
If I put a 2 and a plus sign and a 2 next to it and an equal sign, I know the outcome is going to be 4.
If we put good into this
You're gonna get
computer,
good out.
we will get good out.
And
Same goes for bad.
Yeah, and it's a state.
What do you want? What do you want? Good or bad?
It's a state. Enter into the state.
And then you'll realize there is no good or bad. It's simply
just
the
is,
experience.
Yeah, it is.
It just is.
It's the perspective shift.
It is. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We will be back. Is our next one going to be in 22? Yeah. Our next one will be at the top. Our next episode will
next
be in
year.
a brand new year,
Yeah.
22. So we will see you guys next year. We're excited for all of the blessings, experiences that are going to come in 22. If you guys have any questions or want to reach out to us, we do go through those. You can shoot us an email at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com or leave a comment below. You can subscribe at the link below as well. And we'll see you guys in the new year.
Yeah, peace out.